Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. Thank you for joining me. Now, today we're going to talk about a few different topics. We're going to talk about what happened in Oklahoma over the weekend and partly what happened on Friday in Nebraska and Iowa. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on with the protests across the country, and we'll talk about some stuff that took place with Donald Trump today. Now, first off, on what happened in Oklahoma on Saturday and the storms that happened on Friday the night before. Now, here in Oklahoma, it's been a rough few days for a lot of people. Luckily, here in Norman, most of us were just fine, just a bunch of really bad winds and stuff, and so we were good. But other cities and towns across the state were not so lucky. Places like Marietta, um, as well as Sulphur and Holdenville. Sulphur was basically just destroyed by this storm. The people in Holdenville saw a lot of damage as well, and I believe 4 people in the state lost their lives that day due to the tornadoes. So, if you're somebody that's wanting to help, the easiest thing to do is to set up with an organization. Sign up with an organization that is tasked with helping. That way, you can be part of the help. There are a lot of people that are just showing up trying to help, from what I've been hearing, or at least in the days after, and it's just really causing confusion for people. It's causing the roadways to be congested. And then there's also a lot of talk about what they call disaster tourism. People just showing up to take videos of the disaster area. Those are things that's just not right. Leave the people alone. Let them heal. Let them rebuild. If you want to help them rebuild, you want to help them clean up, then be part of an organization to help them clean up. You can't just show up out of nowhere and expect them to be perfectly okay with you being there. Now, to the people of Sulphur, Holdenville, and definitely to the families that lost loved ones, my thoughts are definitely with you. Um, as we know, that storm Saturday was rough here in Oklahoma, especially for a lot of people in those areas. Then my thoughts are also up there with people in Nebraska and Iowa from the storms on Friday. Um, Over the weekend, from what I heard, there's been somewhere around 174 confirmed tornadoes from Oklahoma all the way into Iowa. Um, so it's been a rough few days for a lot of people. So keep them in your thoughts. Um, do be careful who you give money to. Make sure they're legitimate sources, because there are going to be a lot of scammers out there trying to get your money, making you think you're helping people that they're just stealing money from. I suggest donating to like Red Cross and things like that, um, Salvation Army, maybe even, because those people at least help the people on the ground. Um, and look for other legitimate sources, to help the people in the areas that have been affected by these terrible storms. Now we're going to talk about the protests that have been going on a little bit around the country. Unfortunately, they're not going away. It doesn't appear. You would like them to be able to, you know, protest and for it to, come to an end at some point. A lot of schools over at the end of the week started giving out letters of suspension and warnings that if you don't vacate and shut down your encampments, you're gonna be expelled or whatever from the universities. Now the people at Columbia got those notices and made it very clear that they're not going anywhere. And after that, they ended up taking over one of the campus buildings. Um, so at Columbia, they're definitely really entrenched there on what they're doing. They really believe in what they're doing, and I can't disagree with the protesters. They want Columbia, and this is what's going on at most of the schools that are having these issues. They're having these protests and stuff about what's going on in Gaza and the genocide being perpetrated by the IDF. Um, they are they're tied to companies, or even in some instances to the government of Israel through different channels and stuff. These protesters simply want them to divest from Israeli companies from in out of and pull out of Israel. They don't want their money going there. They don't want to be receiving money for their education coming there from Israel. Now, at the same time, you've got people in Congress trying to claim that any protest against Israel is anti-Semitic, and that's just not the case. That's not how it works. Anti-Semitism has to do with hating people and wanting to harm people simply because they're Jewish. And that's just not the case going on at most of these protests. Yes, there are probably some groups of people that are anti-Semitic that are protesting, but the majority aren't. In fact, at a lot of the campuses, especially at Columbia, there are a lot of Jewish people joining in the protest. So you're going to tell me that they're anti-Semitic just because they're protesting? What's going on? What Israel is doing to the people of Gaza right now? Here's the thing. Calling out what a country is doing isn't saying you hate that country. It's not saying you're anti whatever that country is, right? Like I have no qualms with the people of Israel. Israel. I don't. In fact, I have no problem at all with the people of Israel. It's absolutely not a thing. I have no problem with Jewish people. In fact, I've been there supporting the Jewish people ever since I was a kid. And that's not going to change. My support of the Jewish people and the existence of Israel will not change. But I believe things need to change. I believe that Israel has got to stop bombing its neighbors for no reason. I believe Israel has got to stop killing the children of Gaza and the West Bank for no reason. There's literally no reason that 33,000 Gazans are dead right now. And a third of those being children. There's no excuse. There's no reason. There's no explanation in the world for why that many people have to be dead to go after a group of people that committed a terrorist act on October 7th. And the more we learn about what happened on October 7th, we learn that it's not exactly what the Israeli government made it out to be. First came the story of beheaded children. That was false. There's been no evidence to support that since October 7th. As well, we found out last week through an investigation through Israeli police forces that Israel killed some of its own people at that music festival with Apache helicopters. So, Hamas did commit a heinous act. And yes, I completely agree that Hamas needs to go. But I also believe Netanyahu needs to go. That his war cabinet needs to be dissolved and that the government that the nation needs new elections. That the genocide in Gaza must end immediately. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So what these kids are protesting at these colleges, that's reasonable. It's acceptable. And as I saw on a TikTok earlier today, these kids have been basically fighting for their lives since they were kids in elementary school. This is the Sandy Hook generation coming in to adulthood, right? People that lived through hearing about what happened at Sandy Hook or even living through it. You got other kids, other people in college now that survived Parkland or were alive through Parkland that joined the protest, March for Our Lives. These kids have been under threat. They understand how scary it can be to be under the threat of gunfire and possibly losing your life for something you had nothing to do with. And that's what they're seeing with these. That's why they're protesting. They know how it feels to be under attack. And so they're seeing these children being just murdered, just bombed for no reason, being killed for no reason, and nobody doing a damn thing to stop it. So of course they're protesting. Of course they're demanding that universities divest from Israel. And I don't blame them. So yes, I support the protesters supporting the people in Gaza right now. I'm also very much against anti-Semitism. So I've had people come at me both ways from different social media and stuff like that. And, tell me that I'm not supporting the Palestinians enough or that I'm anti-Semitic. Well, you know what? I'm not. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some perfect being, right? But I support both sides of this issue. I support, you know, I support divesting from Israel. I support the people protesting the genocide in Gaza as we speak. But at the same time, there is no room for anti-Semitism. There's no room for hate. So let's not let the protest be, you know, scapegoated into being anti-Semitic when all they're trying to do is end a war, trying to stop the murder of children and other innocent people that had nothing to do with what Hamas did. I guarantee you, most, if not all, of those almost 34,000 people dead in Gaza, I guarantee you almost none of them, if any of them, had anything to do with what happened on October 7th. I find it absolutely disgusting what the Israeli Defense Forces are doing. They are murdering children while they sleep and laughing about it on camera. I saw a video a few weeks ago of an Israeli sniper sniping children in bedrooms of apartments and laughing about it. Don't tell me this isn't a genocide, because it's definitely what the hell it is. They're literally trying to push these people into the sea. They've been doing it for 70 years. It's not going to change unless there's a massive change in Israel. The area had a chance at peace, but the man who was going to do that was murdered. One of these days, I'll do a video over the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin. But until then, just know peace doesn't come easily. And these people are going to protest until it's done. Now, there is a deal that has been proposed to Hamas, and Israel and Egypt work together to create it, which could create a sustainable peace in the area. But we will see. I do know it starts with releasing hostages. I do believe the hostages that Hamas has do need to be released and returned. I also believe the prisoners that have been taken, or the Palestinian prisoners that have been taken by Israel over the years for no reason. I've read plenty of stories about kids who were arrested when they're like 11 or 12, from over a decade ago, that are still in prison because they were kids and they threw rocks at IDF soldiers in 06 and 08. So I believe the hostages on both sides need to be released. I believe there needs to be an immediate ceasefire on both sides, but mostly Israel, because they're the ones doing most of the damage. But we will see. watch this space, and I'll try to keep you informed as more information comes in. Now, for the last video, or part of the video today, we're going to discuss what happened with Donald Trump today. Earlier today, Donald Trump was hit with contempt of court in his hush money trial. Now, of course, he's on trial, his criminal hush money trial, or not criminal. I don't think it's yeah, it's criminal. I think, um, but he's being charged for giving money to a porn star to cover up his affair with Stormy Daniels. Which is funny. He keeps denying it, but at the same time he admits it. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. But why was he hit with contempt today? Well, there's a gag order in place in the hush money trial. In order for him, that orders him not to attack verbally or on social media or anything like that, jurors, potential jurors, or witnesses and potential witnesses. 9 times he has violated that gag order. And thus, Donald Trump has been fined $1,000 for each instance. That's $9,000, I believe, but I believe that's what they said it was. I think it was $1,000 an instance. And he was told that if he continues to violate it, he will be placed in jail. And he'll be placed under criminal contempt of court. And he'll be imprisoned for whatever the judge deems necessary. But that's what we have going on right now. We will see what happens with that trial. As reported, Trump is falling asleep in court constantly. His attorneys don't even, from what report I just saw from MSNBC, from people that were in the courtroom, his lawyers hardly even leave his side for sidebars with the judge because, well, he keeps falling asleep. They've tried to give him busy work to keep him awake, but it seems like basically it's not working. He's just falling asleep. And he wants to sit there and call Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. Anyhow, that's the news I have for you today here on the Big Rant Show. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you down the road.